Logan got very badly injured. CPS got involved and he lied to CPS under false pretenses that an ex parte had been granted suspending my parenting time, and he refused to give them to me.
We're requesting that Jeanette be awarded sole legal custody again, as she was prior to the February 22 order, and that Mr. Duncan either have supervised parenting time until he can complete some co-parenting counseling and anger management courses.
He just surrendered all of his week of parenting time.
Have you tried to reach out to talk to Mr. Duncan?
When I did try, that's when I learned that he had me blocked on pretty much any form of communication that I could. I was forced to communicate with Mr. Duncan through Samantha's number.
Okay.
To clarify, if you would, who is Samantha?
Samantha is Mr. Duncan's wife.
Can you read this text message into the record, please?
I will sue and have hell raised upon you for the rest of your life, I promise you. Sorry you feel that way again, for some of us have real jobs and not sitting on our asses. Mr. Duncan has tried to completely remove me off of any of the communication with his primary care doctor, all my information. He tried to erase it, and I had to take the police out to his residence quite a few times. The only worthless person is your manly looking self. You're pathetic. Last year, for the first, I want to say 6 to 7 months, I only had probably about 1 or 2 days with my son a week. To get my parenting time back, I actually discovered that Mr. Duncan was being charged with domestic violence and that there was a warrant out for his arrest for such. On the 4th of July, a warrant was issued and he did get picked up. Through family and friends communicating with me, I figured out where my son was and I went and got him. I don't know anything about his personal life. I did used to live in that house in the past, and last year I did have an opportunity to go there. It is not a clean house whatsoever. They have had so many animals that it smells like feces and ammonia so badly. Even though there's like none on the floor or on the walls, it's seeped into the wood so that smell doesn't go anywhere.
That Mr. Duncan's parenting time be supervised due to the supervision issues with all the children in the home, the cleanliness of the home, and the overall environment. We are requesting that Mr. Duncan be held in contempt.
She had previously had sole custody prior to that time. As I was listening to the testimony, the court obviously was a little bit mystified as to why she would have granted joint physical custody based upon her testimony.
And this is case 2020-1593 DC, Daryl Duncan Jr. versus Jeanette Royal. Attorney Jennifer Reef for defendant, and plaintiff is not here.
Okay. Good morning to both of you. Ms. Reed, just to clarify, have you had any communication with the plaintiff?
We have not, and I do believe he has my client blocked on all forms of communication again.
Okay. Well, what the court's going to do, we'll have to proceed, as he has received proper notice in this matter. It's now 8:43. We waited a period of time to allow him to join if that was an issue. The office has not received any communication from him as to his inability to join, nor have we received any communication from him. Court will note for the record that back in February 8, 2022, the parties entered into a stipulated order for custody, parenting time, and support, which provided for joint legal and joint physical parenting time on alternating weeks commencing on Friday at 6:00 p.m. Subsequent to that, there was an order entered on October 6, 2022, requiring the parties to utilize our family wizard in this particular matter. This matter is before the court pursuant to the defendant's motion to modify custody, parenting time support, and show cause. Ms. Reed, you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you wish to make an opening statement or simply proceed to proofs?
A brief opening statement, Your Honor. As Your Honor indicated, we do have a consent order that was entered into at the beginning of last year that awards the parties joint legal and joint physical custody. Since that order was entered, and this is all regarding the party's child, Logan Duncan, who's 5 years old, and the court has had an opportunity to interview that child, I do believe, approximately a month ago. It has been a nightmare. Mr. Duncan, and evidence will show that Mr. Duncan refuses to co-parent, cannot participate in making decisions regarding major life issues, that it would be medical issues, education issues. Mr. Duncan hides information from Jeanette, refuses to provide pertinent information to Jeanette, makes decisions contrary to the best interests of the child. And due to all of these issues that have occurred over the last year regarding practically every facet of Logan's life, we're requesting that Jeanette be awarded sole legal custody again as she was prior to the February 22 order. And that Mr. Duncan either have supervised parenting time until he can complete some co-parenting counseling and anger management courses, or that he have parenting time on a limited scope of non-overnights on alternating weekends with reasonable holidays and reasonable time during the summer.
Okay. Ms. Rita, just to clarify, you said that you wanted to your client wanted to acquire sole legal custody. I assume, based upon your motion, sole physical as well.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. You can proceed. Call your first witness.
I'd like to call Jeanette Royal.
Okay, Ms. Royal, if you would raise your right hand, we'll have you sworn in, then we'll proceed.
Ma'am, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, go ahead when you're ready, Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Jeanette. Since the February 22 order was entered, has Mr. Duncan regularly exercised his parenting time?
Yes, he has.
Okay, and how long has he been regularly exercising that time?
I pretty much on a regular basis from when the order was entered and for when his orders parenting time is supposed to be.
Okay. Is he currently exercising his parenting time?
Not currently, no. He has not even seen our child within the past month.
Okay, and has he given you any explanation why he's not exercising parenting time?
Yes, on Labor Day weekend of this month, he told me that I had to be at the meet on Sunday at 6 p.m. or our child would not be going to school. He was upset that it was ordered that he attend school in Calhoun County, and therefore I didn't even get him until Monday at 7:30 p.m. He just surrendered all of this week of parenting time. The following week, that was my week of parenting time. And the next week, that was supposed to be his parenting time, he did say that his family got the rhinovirus and that he didn't want to risk him getting sick due to his surgery being on the 25th.
Okay. And how are you guys communicating?
We're not communicating. The most communication that I have had with him was through his wife, Samantha, but that was only brief. And that's when I found out that he wouldn't be there at the meet for his parenting time because of his family being sick.
Have you tried to reach out to talk to Mr. Duncan?
When I did try, that's when I learned that he had me blocked on pretty much any form of communication that I could. The only form that I still do have with him is his wife, Samantha, but now she is not even responding back to me.
Okay. And has anyone reached out to you to talk about how Logan's surgery went?
No.
Okay. And was Mr. Duncan aware of when his surgery was?
Yes, he was. I gave him the address. I let him know what time it was. I gave him everything that he possibly could need.
And how did you do that?
I sent it over Facebook Messenger months ago when it was scheduled. It was even talked about in the court hearing in front of Mr. Duncan, and I also communicated about it with his wife, Samantha, because she wanted to be there.
And did anyone appear for that surgery?
No, it was just me.
Okay, and when was that surgery?
It was on September 25th.
Okay, and Logan is doing well after that surgery?
He is doing well. I did get a message that he was a little sick this morning, but he's been amazing. I've noticed that his hearing's been a little sensitive, but so much better, and he's sleeping so much better.
Okay. And what was that surgery for?
It was to get tubes put in his ears because he has chronic ear infections and he had his adenoids removed. It was because he was a very bad open mouth breather during night and it was causing trouble during sleeping. And it was also going to help with allergies. Excuse me. His allergies because he has very bad seasonal allergies. It gets to the point where it can be mistaken as RSV.
Okay. And does Logan have any other health issues?
He does. He was born with a disability. Forgive me because I do not know the medical term, but he was born with an issue that he has problems swallowing. If he drinks any liquids that is not thickened to a nectar-based consistency, it goes into his lungs, causing him to aspirate.
And does he have any sort of prescription medications he has to take to help with his swallowing disorder?
Yes, I get these little packets called Simply Quick or Simply Thick to put in his drinks. It's 1 packet to every 4 ounces of liquid.
Okay. And have there been any issues with receiving that medication during parenting time exchanges from Mr. Duncan?
It actually gets sent to my address, and I do give him the thicket on a monthly basis.
You give Mr. Duncan the thicket on a monthly basis?
Yep, it's a quantity of 200 packets. I keep 100 and I give him 100.
Okay. And does Logan take any other medications?
Just his prescription for his allergies.
Okay. And have there been any issues with medication exchanges with Mr. Duncan?
Yes, there has. When his allergies are really bad, I give Mr. Duncan the bottle of his allergy medicine. There has been quite a few times that I have not received that back. It got to a point where I almost had the police called on me for trespassing because I refused to leave for half an hour without it. Logan has gone a couple times without it when his allergies were really bad because I had to wait to get his prescription refilled.
Okay, so instead of Mr. Duncan providing you with the prescription, you have to go get another prescription so Logan has his medication?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that Logan has ear infections. How often does he have ear infections?
He was getting ear infections between 3 to 5 or 6 times throughout the year.
Okay. And was he seeing any sort of specialist or doctors for these chronic ear infections?
Yes, we were seeing Dr. Profit.
And how often were you seeing Dr. Profit?
We were seeing her about, I want to say 2 to 3 times a year. We originally went to Dr. Profit for his swallowing so we can find the root problem of it.
Okay, how long has Logan been a patient of Dr. Profit?
Since 2021.
Okay. And was that someone that you and Mr. Duncan agreed upon?
It wasn't necessarily agreed upon, but I always did communicate with Mr. Duncan about Dr. Profit, and he never had any objections until Dr. Profit made a suggestion that his tonsils were enlarged and he might need to have his adenoids removed and have tubes put in his ears.
Okay, and what was Mr. Duncan's objection?
That he did not want Dr. Profit doing it, and that I was a horrible mother for not getting it done in the first place, even though we just found out that it was a problem.
Okay, did he send you any text messages about that?
He sent me quite a few uncivil messages.
Okay, may I share my screen, Your Honor?
Yes.
Does it say Samantha at the top?
Yes, it does.
But this is Mr. Duncan talking to you?
Yes, it is. Through a specific amount of time, I was forced to communicate with Mr. Duncan through Samantha's number.
Okay.
To clarify, if you would, who is Samantha?
Samantha is Mr. Duncan's wife.
Okay, thank you.
And then can you read this text message into the record, please? Jeanette?
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was zooming it in.
Okay.
Okay, this first one was from him. He will not be getting surgery in Battle Creek for tubes and tonsils removal. I will sue and have hell raised upon you for the rest of your life, I promise you.
Okay, and then what is his next text message to you?
I cannot read it all because okay. I have been telling you for years to get that boy's shit done. Your words, you were not happening. He don't need it. He don't need it. I have all messages and even ones when I told you when we were together. But again, you said you don't need it done, and now I have referred him and got proof that he needs it.
Okay, then what is the next text message he sent you?
Sorry you feel that way again. For some of us have real jobs and not sitting on our asses.
And have you been asking for years for the surgery to be done?
I'm sorry, Ms. Reed, what?
Have you been requesting that the surgery be done for years?
For about a year and a half now, yes.
And why didn't you agree to the surgery?
It's not that I didn't agree to the surgery. At first, I just wanted medical opinions because he just up and stated that he wanted it done without even having an appointment or without referring to a doctor.
Okay, so you wanted a doctor's opinion before you scheduled any sort of surgery?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and referring back to Exhibit E, what was the next message he sent you after he said, sorry you feel that way?
I want a selfie like, fuck, shut the fuck up with your stupid shit and tell me about my son before I make the surgery and not even inform you because you want to play games.
And why was he making that statement?
I'm not sure as to why he was making the statement. I believe I was trying to communicate with him about the appointment that I was trying to make with Dr. Profit.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down to another. No, well, first because we have separate text messages regarding this incident. Is this an accurate reflection of the conversation you had on that day?
Yes, it is.
And this exhibit has not been altered in any way other than the addition of an exhibit sticker marking it as Exhibit E?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall approximately what year this message was sent?
In 2022, I believe.
Do you remember when in 2022?
I want to say in the beginning of 2022, probably about March, May, somewhere maybe around June.
Okay, I move for the admission of Exhibit E.
Okay, obviously, there being no objection, the court will admit defendant's Exhibit E. Just for clarification, though, Ms. Royal, I see at the top of it, it says 8/29/22. Is that when you had it printed?
8/29/22.
At least it looks like it. 8. It's at the very top left corner before the messages begin.
Yes, I do believe that's when I printed it.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know if that was the date that you sent it or not. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm now moving on to what we have marked as Exhibit F. And then can you read that text message, Ms. Royal?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you read it into the record, please?
Yes. Excuse me. He also does. I'm sorry, there's a thing blacking out a little bit of the message. It's a lie on your part. I have recordings of him sleeping every night on my week.
Okay, the following message.
Keep going because, again, Dr. Profit won't be touching my son or I will be suing. Unlike you, I have the money to do so, and you are only doing something now because I put my foot in with another doctor that's seen his issues first time. Maybe when I tell you you failed already, you would listen to me.
Had he seen another doctor for this issue?
Mr. Duncan did take Logan to Dr. Cox for a second opinion.
Did he tell you about that second opinion?
There was a little bit of issues about learning the appointment and where it was, but I did attend the appointment.
Okay, and did he give you any reason why he was opposed to Dr. Cox, who had been treating Logan doing the surgery? Or
Do you mean
Dr. Profit?
the only reason that he gave was because Dr. Cox did his stepchildren's tubes and just tubes, I believe. There was no medical reason whatsoever that he did not want Dr. Profit doing it.
Okay. And when was this text message sent?
This was also sent in the beginning of the year. I want to say around June.
Okay, and is this an accurate reflection of your conversation with him that day?
Yes, it was.
And this has not been altered in any way other than the addition of the exhibit sticker?
No, it has not.
And you believe that you are speaking, and it's your understanding that you were speaking with Mr. Duncan and not Samantha in this message?
Yes.
Okay, move for the admission of exhibit F.
Court will admit defendant's exhibit F, there being no opposition.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. So we have an idea of the timeline regarding the surgery. When was the surgery first scheduled to occur?
It excuse me. It was first scheduled to occur gosh, I want to say in the early summer of 2022.
Okay, and why was it canceled?
The very first one was canceled because we did have the appointment with Dr. Cox. After the appointment with Dr. Cox, Mr. Duncan called and canceled it himself, threatening the staff, saying that they went through with the surgery, that they would be suing him. So then they called me due to uncivility matters. They had to cancel the surgery.
Okay, and when was the next time it was scheduled for?
The next time it was scheduled for, it was actually scheduled with Dr. Cox because at this point I just had enough of fighting. He needed the surgery done. And it was scheduled at the end of August of 2022.
And why was that surgery canceled?
That was canceled because I took Logan into his primary care doctor because I thought he had a cold. He didn't have a cold, but we left learning that he had a heart murmur. So he had to see a cardiologist.
And was he cleared for surgery after seeing a cardiologist?
Yes, he was. When I took him to the cardiologist, we learned that it was just an innocent heart murmur and that it would resolve on its own.
When was the next surgery scheduled?
The next surgery was scheduled with Dr. Profit at this time because Mr. Duncan was not communicating with me. And that was scheduled in early this year. I want to say in February or March.
Okay, and why was that one canceled?
That one was canceled because Logan did get sick and he was on antibiotics. Because of the antibiotics, they didn't want to have the surgery done because it would interfere with anesthesia.
Okay, and then when was the next surgery scheduled for?
The next surgery was scheduled for, I want to say around May or June of this year.
And why was that one canceled?
That one was canceled because when he came back from Mr. Duncan's, he was sick yet again. They would not take him into his primary care doctor. They want to take him into the emergency room. So I had to do it as soon as he came back to me. He was sick, got on antibiotics. Same thing as last time. They wouldn't do the surgery because of the antibiotics.
Okay, and then was it scheduled now, this last time, for this last Monday?
Yes.
Okay, and were you able to communicate to Mr. Duncan regarding all of these issues with the surgery this year?
I was able to communicate with him to let him know when the surgery was and everything like that. I provided all the information for him, but as far as communications beyond that, no.
And did he send you any objections regarding Dr. Profit doing the surgery instead of Dr. Cox?
He stopped the threatening messages just for this past surgery that was scheduled.
Okay. So this last one, meaning the one that happened this month?
Yes.
Okay. When was he sending you threatening messages?
He was the last time he sent me threatening messages about it was probably early this year. I want to say back in March or May.
Did he take any steps to schedule the surgery?
No, he did not, but he did attempt to cancel the surgery, or he at least threatened to cancel it.
When was that?
Ugh. In the beginning of this year, forgive me because I don't know the exact date.
Okay. Are there any issues with Mr. Duncan and Logan's normal primary care physician visits?
There has been multiple issues with that. Mr. Duncan has tried to completely remove me off of any of the communication with his primary care doctor, all my information. He tried to erase it. There have been multiple appointments that have been canceled due to uncivility on their part. And Mr. Duncan got upset because I always want to attend his appointments so I can properly care for my son. There has been one time when I wanted to attend, he took Logan back into the car and the appointment had to be canceled.
Do you know what that appointment was for?
Yes, he was sick, I believe, and not feeling good.
Do you remember when that appointment was?
I want to say that was actually in the late year of 2021.
Okay, when you say there's uncivility on their part during these appointments, what's happening?
There's threats. That is in front of my son too. One appointment, he told me, "Do I want to die?" Because I showed up. He told me that I need to leave or he's going to slash my tires. He's saying rude things just to me in front of Logan. I always tell Logan to cup his ears so he doesn't listen.
And this is in the doctor's office?
In the waiting rooms. I always ask for the doors to be left open if we actually attend appointments together.
Okay. And how often does this occur?
It occurs every single time that he makes an appointment on his week that I try to attend.
Okay. And if you don't attend those doctor's appointments, does he share the appointment information with you?
No, he does not. I have to call the doctors just to see.
Okay. If there's ever a medical emergency, does Mr. Duncan share that information with you?
He does not.
Okay. How are you made aware of medical emergencies?
The last medical emergency that I was aware of, it was on June 15th. It was on my birthday. My email is linked to my son's client portal. So I got alerted that he was in the emergency room.
And did you go to the emergency room?
Yes, I did. I left work and went straight there.
And was that a civil interaction when you got to the emergency room?
By the time I got to the emergency room on that one, they already left. But the doctors did tell me everything that was going on.
Okay. Have there been any issues with you receiving emergency information regarding Logan during Mr. Duncan's time?
Any issues that I have had is just Mr. Duncan not communicating with me.
Okay. Does Mr. Duncan give Logan his medications as prescribed?
As far as I'm aware, and I would like to hope so. But there have been a couple times where I really feared that he didn't.
And why would you be afraid that he wasn't giving him his meds?
Because he would still come back to me sick.
Okay. Have there been any issues with Mr. Duncan giving Logan medications that aren't Logan's?
Yes, there was actually one time last year in the beginning of June, I do believe. Logan was sick. It was his parenting time. And without consulting a doctor or anything like that, Mr. Duncan gave him steroids that was one of his stepchildren's. I expressed how deeply what's the word I'm looking for? I'm so sorry. I was not okay with that whatsoever. And I did let him know that because he said that his other children had an appointment, and I was so upset because he wouldn't make Logan one, and he gave him medication without even talking to a doctor.
Okay. Is Logan, or does Logan have any sort of recommendations for any sort of therapy?
I did take him to dysfunctional kids. I am so sorry. I want to say it was in the early year of 2022 or 2021. That's when we were first trying to figure out his swallowing problem, and Logan was displaying odd behavior. So they did describe him or refer him to swallow therapy. They were going to work with him with different levels of thickened liquids or thinner liquids, trying to activate those muscles so he can hopefully one day no longer be on his ticket.
Okay. And who referred him to that therapy?
I do not remember the doctor's name. It was at Dysfunctional Kids, but Dr. Profit was the one that referred him to Dysfunctional Kids.
Okay. And was he able to attend that therapy?
He was not.
And why not?
The Mr. Duncan has a really big problem of withholding Logan for my parenting time. It got so bad during that time that even though the therapy was bi-weekly, I couldn't even make the first appointment for him because I didn't know when I would have him.
Okay. How often, let's start with last year. How often last year was he denying you parenting time?
It was a weekly basis. I don't even remember a full week that I had with my son last year.
Okay. And were you trying to communicate regarding these parenting time issues with Mr. Duncan?
I was, yes, but he was uncivil, and a lot of times he would have me blocked. And I had to take the police out to his residence quite a few times.
Okay. Did you file parenting time complaints last year for your denied parenting time?
Not every single time like I should have, because I was so heartbroken. I wasn't okay. But I did file a few of them, yes.
And did you get makeup parenting time in those complaints?
I did get a couple makeup parenting times, yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to start moving on to some school-related issues. Does Logan receive any sort of services regarding education?
Yes, he does. He's going to North Penn, Penfield.
Okay. And when was he enrolled in North Penn Penfield?
He was enrolled the very week that Judge Kirkham said that he can attend in Calhoun County.
Okay. Did you try to communicate that decision with Mr. Duncan?
I did try to, but he had me blocked.
Okay. And what kind of services is Logan receiving at North Penn?
He does have an IEP. He got that when he was attending his speech therapy here in Calhoun County. There is a teacher that is working with him specifically with that. Other than that, he's in normal classes like a kindergarten, and he's thriving and having fun.
Okay. When was he originally starting speech therapy in Calhoun County?
He started speech therapy, I want to say in 2021. I did originally have him enrolled in early on. Once he turned 3 years old, he no longer qualified for early on. So that is when we got enrolled in speech therapy.
Okay. And how often was he participating in speech therapy?
It was once a week. It was via Zoom.
Okay. And when did that stop?
That stopped in June of 2022. That's when he got his IEP, and I was going to have him enrolled in Head Start. It was going to be about 4 hours a day for 4 days a week. I was really hoping that would help with starting school, so it wasn't such a big transition for him.
Okay, and did he get enrolled into that program?
He did for about 2 days. Then Mr. Duncan, without consulting me, without even informing me, went behind my back and signed a waiver to transfer him out of Calhoun County to Berry County.
Okay. And when did you find out he did that?
I found that out because I tried calling the Head Start to see when he could start, because, I was really excited about it. He was really excited about it. Then they told me that he was transferred and that they could not give me any information regarding it.
Why couldn't they give you information?
They couldn't give me any information because when Mr. Duncan transferred him, he did not list me on any of the forms as the mother. He listed Samantha as the mom.
Okay, and how did you resolve that issue?
I had to send a copy of the court order, my driver's license, and Logan's birth certificate just to get copies of the waiver and for them to tell me any information.
Okay, what program did Mr. Duncan enroll Logan in?
It was the Head Start just because of the transfer. Then he transferred him to a GRP program in Berry County.
And what was the GRP program?
It was basically just like normal school for a 4-year-old. It was 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and he even had him enrolled into a bus route.
Okay, did Logan ever attend that program?
He did not. And I tried calling the school to talk to him about it. They said that with us having a weekly parenting time, that it wouldn't even work and he couldn't attend school for 1 week out of the month and not the other ones.
Okay. Did Logan's IEP get transferred up to Berry County?
It did not.
Okay. So Mr. Duncan transferred him and then nothing happened.
That is correct.
Okay. Why did you pick the school that he is currently in?
I picked Penfield because it is the school that we talked about ever since Mr. Duncan and I first moved out to Battle Creek. It's where he grew up. It's where Mr. Duncan attended. And I really wanted that for Logan because it's also where the majority of his family attends. And his grandmother also works at the schools from 11 to 1, and she is my biggest supporter. And she helps with Logan so much.
Okay. Has Mr. Duncan participated in this enrollment process or in the school in any way?
Mr. Duncan has been refusing to be involved in any way.
Is he willing to do pickup and drop-offs during his parenting time?
He has not. On the 7th, I want to say right after Labor Day, it was still Mr. Duncan's parenting time, and I was trying to co-parent. I was trying to communicate with him. I said if he does have any issues dropping him off, then I can meet him in the mornings to get Logan to school, but it would be his responsibility to pick him back up. Mr. Duncan was still not communicating with me, so I did take Logan to school. I did tell him that it was, forgive me, he wanted him back the very next day at 4:30. I told him that wasn't going to work because I work second shift and nobody else is willing to meet him due to his uncivility. So I told him it would be his responsibility to pick Logan up from school because pickups are at 3:45 p.m.
What was the time again?
3:45 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and he refused to pick him up?
He did. He actually did not communicate with me whatsoever, and even his father and stepmother, Bobby, tried to communicate with him. I did ask his grandfather Daryl's dad to be out there just in case. And I am very glad that we did that, or Logan would not have been picked up from school that day.
Okay. And you had previously testified that Mr. Duncan had said that Joe Logan's not going to be going to school on his weeks. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, was that over a phone call?
That was actually during the meet, because I tried giving Mr. Duncan the yearly school calendar of when like half days was, or like when Pride Week no, I'm so sorry, not Pride Week, when Spirit Week is and stuff like that. And he refused to take it because he said if he stays on his weeks that he's not going to be attending school because he can't get him back and forth.
Okay. And how far away is the school from Mr. Duncan's home?
It is about 20 minutes as it is for me. The school is actually smack dab right in the middle of us.
Okay. Is Mr. Duncan aware of the IEP?
Yes, he is. He actually did attend or participated into his speech therapy.
But that was almost a year and a half ago, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but nothing recent?
Nothing recent.
Okay. You and Mr. Duncan have been ordered to communicate through the Our Family Wizard app, and that was in an order in October of 22, and then more recently in a temporary order. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Have you signed up for Our Family Wizard?
Yes, I have been signed up for it for almost a year now.
Has Mr. Duncan signed up for Our Family Wizard?
No, he refuses to. And he did send me a screenshot the last time that it was ordered, but he set it up in a way to where our accounts are not linked. I tried asking him what email he used for me and everything like that, because as far as I know, our emails have to be linked for it to work. He refused to tell me.
Okay, you still have no ways to communicate with him other than through Samantha sometimes?
That's correct.
How often does he block you like this?
I am blocked more than I am unblocked, but when he does unblock me, it's a very limited time before he blocks me again. It's probably a month or less.
Okay. We've talked about some threats that he's sent to you regarding the surgery. Does he threaten you in other ways over text message?
Yes, he does.
How does he threaten you?
There has been 1 or 2 threats of ending my life, and sorry. He just threatens me in any shape or form that he can.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen again, and for the court, I'm going to be sharing Exhibit J. Okay, Jeanette, can you see what I'm sharing with you?
Yes, I can.
And is this a text message again from It Says Samantha?
Yes, it is.
And do you recall this text message?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember when this message was sent?
That was probably sent at the end of 2021 or in the beginning of 2022.
Okay, and can you read it into the record, please?
Yes. Bitch, the only worthless person is your manly looking self. You're pathetic and need to be put down permanently. It will go on you. It got worse with you, you stupid bitch. He's been with you for 2 fucking weeks. You worthless cunt. Get him his surgery, you nasty inbred bitch, before you fucking kill him, or me do the same to you.
Okay. And has this message been altered in any way?
No, it has not.
And the only addition that we have is the addition of the exhibit sticker marking it as Exhibit J.
Yes.
And was this from Samantha or Daryl?
It does say Samantha, but it was Daryl that I was communicating with.
Okay, and move for the admission of Exhibit J.
Being no objection, defendant's exhibit J will be admitted.
Okay. Do you have Mr. Duncan blocked or restricted on any forms of communication?
No, I do not.
Okay. Has Mr. Duncan ever provided you with false information regarding this present custody case?
Yes, he has.
When was that?
The very first time it happened was in August of 2021. It is when Logan got very badly injured. CPS got involved and he lied to CPS under false pretenses that an ex parte had been granted suspending my parenting time, and he refused to give them to me.
And was an ex parte entered?
An ex parte was entered, but it was denied.
Okay, so he filed something, but it was denied.
Yes, and he was lying to police and CPS saying that it was granted.
Okay, and then did CPS do anything regarding the complaint?
They couldn't do anything because of the courts being involved, but they did advise Mr. Duncan to do what he felt was correct. But as soon as I showed them proof of the ex parte being granted, they did recommend Logan coming back to me on my parenting time.
Ex parte being granted or denied?
Denied. I am so sorry.
Okay. Have there been any other incidences where he's provided false information to CPS? Or to you about CPS?
He has done that a couple other times to CPS, and he has done it to the police. The most recent time was on Easter when it was my parenting time. I took the police out there to try to exercise that parenting time, but he told the police that it was his, not mine.
Okay. Has he ever provided you information that this case was being moved to a different county?
Yes, he has. There's been a couple hearings that Mr. Duncan was not very likable in his sense. So he threatened to move our case to a different venue in Berry County, and he told me that was going up for an appeal and that I missed court hearings and that my parenting time is going to be suspended or terminated. That had been an issue for quite a while.
Okay, and has this case ever been transferred anywhere?
No, it has not.
And when he was making those threats, had any orders been entered that suspended or terminated your parenting time?
No.
Okay. How often does he make those threats?
He made those threats pretty much on a weekly basis for about a year. I always had to call Calhoun County courts just to make sure to keep my sanity, and I also had to call Berry County courts.
Okay. If you could put a number on it, I know you said it was a lot. How much of your parenting time was denied last year?
Oh, boy. Last year for the first, I want to say 6 to 7 months, I only had probably about 1 or 2 days with my son a week.
Okay.
So
Then what happened in the second half of the year?
yes, it did lighten up, but it still did happen throughout the rest of the year.
Okay, and then has he denied you parenting time this year?
Excuse me. Yes, he has.
Okay, and how often?
It has happened probably about anywhere between 3 to 4 times.
Okay. And Mr. Duncan has a copy of the order, is that correct?
Yes, he does.
And when you inform him that it's your parenting time, what does he say?
He says that, because I even screenshot the, so sorry, I take a picture of our court order to show him that, no, this is my parenting, not yours. You're the plaintiff, I'm the defendant. He tells me that it's a copy of the old order, not the new order. The order that he was referring to, that it was when I had sole custody, not when we have joint custody, which was not the case. And that it was in fact his time and not mine.
Okay. Does he follow the orders?
He does not.
Okay. And did you, in our motion, we requested a show cause for denial of parenting time on June 30th to July 4th. What happened during that week?
It was my parenting time for the 4th of July, and Mr. Duncan claimed that it was his vacation week for the summer, which it was not, because he did not properly submit it, but yet he still withheld Logan.
What did you do to try and get your parenting time?
To get my parenting time back, I actually discovered that Mr. Duncan was being charged with domestic violence and that there was a warrant out for his arrest for such. On the 4th of July, or I want to say the 5th, I can't quite remember, it was one or two of those days, a warrant was issued and he did get picked up. Through family and friends communicating with me, I figured out where my son was and I went and got him.
Okay, where was he?
He was at Samantha's parents' house in Berry County.
Okay. And how many days were you denied parenting time?
I want to say 4 or 5.
Okay. Are you requesting makeup parenting time for those 4 or 5 days?
Yes.
Are you requesting that Mr. Duncan be held in contempt for violating the order again?
Yes.
Okay. And not too long ago, we were at a hearing in front of referee Delmont regarding denial of parenting time. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Duncan was held in contempt at that hearing?
Yes, he was.
Okay. But you were not ordered makeup parenting time at that hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe your relationship with Logan?
My relationship with Logan is just something out of a little fairy tale. That little boy just makes me smile every single time I think about him. He's goofy, he's funny. He's a very special kid.
How do you show him love and affection?
I do that by understanding when he's upset, and when he's shut down, I just hold him and tell him that it's okay.
Okay. And how does he show you love and affection?
He wiggles our noses together.
Does he give you hugs?
He gives me lots of hugs. He is such a little hugger. He gives me kisses.
Okay. And can you describe Logan's relationship with Mr. Duncan?
That is almost the opposite, and it's a little heartbreaking. Every single time that it was Mr. Duncan's week and I had to take Logan back, he would start crying, saying that he didn't want to go over to Daddy's, and that he would always come home shut down, saying that Daddy and Samantha were mean to him.
Okay. So he was not excited during exchanges?
No, he was not.
Okay. Were there any issues during exchanges?
There's always issues during exchanges. They get so bad that I have to tell Logan to cover his ears. And quite recently, for the past few months, during the exchanges, Mr. Duncan has been involving his stepchildren. And I don't think children in general should even be a part of something like that.
What's going on that you're having to tell Logan to cover his ears?
I get called Shrek quite a lot, and a she-man. There's just things that you wouldn't even think of that are said. I get called a worthless mother, a pathetic mother, pretty much every single time. And then I'm trying to take Logan away from his father, which is not the case. I just want him to have stability and consistency and love.
Okay. How is Mr. Duncan involving the stepchildren?
He is letting them either come out of the car to stand next to their car, or they roll down the windows so they can scream out of it to call me Shrek. Almost every single time they call me Shrek, and they ask me where Donkey is.
Okay. And does Mr. Duncan stop that behavior?
No, they do not. The most that I have said anything about it is I told the oldest one that he needs to watch his mouth.
I know Logan's a little guy, but is he involved in any sort of extracurricular activities at school right now?
Not at the moment, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be in football. He keeps talking about it when he becomes of age.
Okay. And how do you discipline Logan?
I threaten timeout. It's very little that I ever have to actually put him in timeout. I don't hit him. I don't tap his hands. I don't do anything like that. I just say, do you want to go in timeout? He go, no. And he stops doing whatever it is that I'm threatening timeout with, because when I'm threatening timeout, it's typically because he's doing something dangerous.
Okay. And can you describe how Mr. Duncan disciplines Logan?
He uses physical punishment, which we have gotten into many arguments and fights about it, because you don't need to hit him. Just threatening timeout and talking with him works.
Okay. Can you describe Logan's routine when he's with you?
Our routine is we get up in the morning for school now. Since he started school, our routine's a little bit different. We wake up at about, I want to say 6:30, so he has a little bit of time to wake up and get that brain fog out, and that also goes for me too. Brain fog sucks. And then at about 6:45, I make us breakfast. We're watching cartoons together. About 7:30, that's when we're starting to leave for school, because drop off is at 8:15 a.m. I do work second shift, so his grandparents are the ones that pick him up from school. Then I go and pick him up from school. I do have weekends off, so we spend time together, and bedtime is always around 8 o'clock to 9:30.
Okay. And do you know if Logan has any sort of routines with Mr. Duncan?
I do not, because he refuses to communicate with me, and he tells me that Logan is none of my business on his weeks.
Okay. Do you have any religious beliefs or practices?
I do not.
Has Mr. Duncan ever requested that his rights to Logan be terminated?
Yes, actually, he has told me to do the papers for him to sign off of Logan quite a few times.
When you say quite a few times, how often is that?
It happened twice last year, and it has happened once this year.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you again. And for the courts, I'm going to be referencing Defendant's Exhibit M.
Yes. Threaten the cops like you always do. So unless you provide information how you knew Logan was there, I believe that was when I
Ms. Rowe,
picked.
but just to clarify, when she has you do that, you have to read it as it states. I noticed with some of the others, you kind of interjected other words to make it flow correctly, but read it the exact way it is on the exhibit, and then she can ask you to explain it afterwards.
Okay.
Okay.
Threat cops like you always do. So unless you provide information how you knew Logan was there when no one knew, but me and my wife and how you got her address, you will soon be arrested for trespassing once I get Logan today. Get your fat ass ugly lawyer to get the signing off of Logan done. Hurry up and get it done. You're getting what you want. Show your lawyer these and get the papers done ASAP.
Okay, and at the very beginning of that message, what was he talking about?
Right there, he was talking about how I knew where to get Logan the day that he was arrested.
Okay. And is this a text message or through Facebook Messenger?
That is through Facebook Messenger.
Okay, and is it an accurate depiction of that text message?
Yes, ma'am.
Has it been altered in any way other than the addition of the exhibit sticker?
No, it has not.
And move for the admission of Exhibit M.
Being no objection, the court will admit defendant's Exhibit M.
Okay, so that was this year, correct?
Yes, it was.
And he's made this request to have his rights terminated before, you said?
Yes, he did.
And when was the time before this time?
It was in spring of 2022.
Okay. Do you think he's serious in that request?
I never followed through on it because I did not have a lawyer at that time, and he plays a lot of mind games, and I felt like it didn't just sit right with me.
Okay. Are you concerned regarding Logan's relationship with Mr. Duncan based on these messages that he's saying, terminate my rights?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you purchase the items that Logan wants and needs?
Yes, I do.
We've talked a lot about doctors' appointments. Who's usually the parent to schedule those appointments?
I am.
Okay. Are you currently working?
Yes, I am.
Where?
I'm working at Modus Integrated Technologies.
And how long have you worked there?
I have worked there for a year now.
And how many hours a week do you work?
As of right now, only 40 hours a week.
And there's no overtime?
Not since the three big manufacturer companies have gone on strike. Overtime has been cut out.
Okay. Did you ever get overtime?
Yes, I did. I got about maybe anywhere between 10 to 14 hours of overtime throughout the beginning of the year.
Is that consistent or does it fluctuate?
That was very consistent. We were lucky to have a day off.
Okay. And so you foresee that you will be getting some overtime in the future?
Yes, I will.
Okay. You said you work second shift. What specific hours are those?
3 p.m. to 11 p.m.
And you have Saturday and Sunday off?
Yes, I do.
Do you receive any payments from profit sharing pensions or retirement?
I do not.
Do you receive any military benefits?
No.
Do you receive any disability benefits?
No.
Do you receive any unemployment benefits or other public benefits like Medicaid?
I do receive Medicaid, yes.
Okay. Do you have any sort of private health insurance on top of Medicaid?
I did just get a health insurance plan for me and Logan through State Farm.
And do you have to pay additional for that?
Yes, it's about $75 a month, I believe.
And that for both of you?
Yes.
Okay. Will Logan be removed from Medicaid now that you have private insurance?
I do not believe so.
Okay. So you still qualify?
Yes.
but they're gonna bill State Farm first?
Yes, whatever State Farm doesn't pick up, Medicaid will.
Do you know if Mr. Duncan provides any sort of health insurance for Logan?
He does not. I've always been the one to carry health insurance.
Okay. Do you have any sort of uniform licensing or other costs that you must pay as a condition of your employment?
No.
Do you have any childcare expenses?
His grandmother, Bobby, he does stay with her when I'm working. The only childcare expenses that I do have is that I provide everything for Logan when he is in her care, and I do give her just a little bit of gas money to pick him up from school on the weekend days.
Okay, and how much is that?
About $30.
Okay. Do you support any other children other than Logan?
I do not.
Okay, and do you know where Mr. Duncan works?
I do not.
Do you know how much he makes?
No.
Okay. Has he provided us or any sort of financial support to you for Logan?
No. The only financial support I do get for him is when his checks are being garnished when he does have a job or they get taken out of taxes.
Okay, is there currently child support ordered?
Yes, there is.
And what is that?
It is $450 a month, I believe.
Is he currently paying it?
Not on a monthly basis, no.
Do you know if Mr. Duncan utilizes any sort of childcare?
I am not sure at all. I do believe that he did just have twins that were born. But as far as that, I don't know anything about his personal life.
Okay. Do you live in a house or an apartment?
I live in a manufactured home.
How long have you lived there?
I lived here since the end of March.
Okay, and how many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms.
Can you describe your housekeeping standards?
Clean and organized. Except for the toys that are everywhere in the living room.
Who lives with you?
The only company I really do get is I want to say his cousin that lives at Bobby's. He's only about 11 years old. Play dates.
He doesn't live with you. It's all just you and Logan that live with you.
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry.
And Logan has his own room.
Yes, he does.
Does Logan have any chores or responsibilities?
Yes, he does. He's in charge of picking up his own toys and taking care of his dirty clothes, making sure they're put in the hamper in the laundry room. And he's in charge of keeping his room clean.
Okay. Do you have any concerns regarding Mr. Duncan's home?
I have a few concerns about that, yes.
What are your concerns?
Well, I did used to live in that house in the past, and last year I did have an opportunity to go there. It is not a clean house whatsoever. They have had so many animals that it smells like feces and ammonia so badly, even though there's like none on the floor or on the walls. It's seeped into the wood so that smell doesn't go anywhere. There's a little bit of black mold here and there, and their toilet is like falling through the floor. It's a little concerning.
Okay. Are you aware of any domestic violence in his home?
Yes, he actually got first charged with domestic violence that was redacted, I believe. And to my knowledge, that did happen in front of Logan.
What happened?
He attacked his brother's girlfriend.
Okay, and he was charged with domestic violence, but you said it was redacted. Was it redacted or reduced?
Reduced. I am so sorry.
Do you know what the charge was reduced to?
I want to say disorderly conduct.
Okay. And was Samantha charged with that as well?
She, I believe so. She did also have a warrant on her for domestic violence at first.
Okay. Are you aware of any other domestic violence occurring in his home?
There is uncivility between Daryl and Samantha themselves, and they do get into physical altercations.
Okay. Has Logan ever been returned from Mr. Duncan's parenting time with any injuries?
Quite a few injuries, yes.
What are the injuries?
There has been about 2 to 3 times where he would come back to me with his fingers and toes bleeding because they would cut his fingernails down so far to the point where it's past the nail bed. I asked them not to do that because I can safely clip his fingernails as soon as he comes back. That's no problem whatsoever. That's called co-parenting. But they still do it anyways. There has been a couple times where he would come back with bruises on his head outside from a 4-year-old just getting bruises here and there from playing. And recently on June 15th, he had come back with a laceration on the top of his head.
Do you know what the laceration was from?
That is when he went to the emergency room. They told me that Samantha told the doctors that he was jumping on the couch and fell on hard tiles. But I lived in that house for 4 years. The only hard tiles is in the kitchen. When I got Logan back, I asked him what happened. He told me the same story, but then without even asking him, he said that's what Sammy told me to say. He told me that Chloe stabbed him on top of the head, and Chloe is a stepsister.
Okay, so Chloe's a stepsister.
Yes.
Have there been any other injuries when he's come home?
There has just been bruises. There has been one time when he came home and said that Chloe tried to drown him during the summer.
Okay, with these injuries and statements, are you concerned regarding the supervision in Mr. Duncan's home?
I am very concerned with the supervision. I feel like there's not enough of it.
Do you know how many children are currently living in Mr. Duncan's home?
6, including Logan. 5, not including him.
Okay. Who else lives in Mr. Duncan's home?
It is Daryl and Samantha, Maggie, that is his mother, and her boyfriend, Trafton.
How many bedrooms is the home?
There's only 4 bedrooms.
Okay. Do you use any illegal drugs?
No, I do not.
Do you use any prescription drugs?
No.
Do you use any marijuana or marijuana products?
No.
Do you consume alcohol?
I do not.
Have you ever been ordered to participate in a substance abuse treatment program?
No.
Do you know if Mr. Duncan uses any illegal drugs?
Illegal drugs? No.
Do you know if he uses any prescription drugs?
No.
Does he use marijuana or marijuana products?
Yes, he does.
How often?
On a daily basis.
And how do you know he uses it on a daily basis?
I've known Mr. Duncan since we were 13 years old, and he has always used marijuana products. And even up to the day that we separated, he said that he would never stop. The times that we have been civil didn't last long, but he was still smoking marijuana on a daily basis.
And does he consume or smoke marijuana in front of Logan?
Not right by him, but in front of him, yes, outside, if they're playing.
Okay. Does he consume alcohol?
Yes, he does.
Do you know how often?
He is pretty much an alcoholic, and he does that on a daily basis too.
Okay. Has he ever been ordered to participate in a substance use treatment program?
No, he has not.
Okay. Is it ordered that he not consume alcohol during his parenting time?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor?
He has been convicted of a misdemeanor, yes.
I'm asking you, Jeanette.
Oh, I am so sorry. No, I have not.
Okay. Have you ever been substantiated for abuse or neglect?
No, I have not.
Has Mr. Duncan ever been convicted of a misdemeanor?
Yes, he has.
Okay, and what is that?
That was for him attacking his brother's girlfriend. That is for disorderly conduct, I believe.
Okay, anything prior to that?
Not to my knowledge.
Has he ever been convicted of a felony?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Has he ever been substantiated in an abuse and neglect case?
Yes, he has. He was substantiated with abuse of Logan back in August of 2021.
Was he placed on a central registry?
Not, yes, I do believe so. For the substantiation, I
Okay.
think.
Has he ever participated in any sort of parenting time or anger management classes or courses?
No, he has not.
Okay. Are there any physical issues that would affect your ability as a parent?
No,
Are there any mental health issues that affect your ability as a parent?
no.
Okay. What is your proposed visitation schedule?
I'm sorry, my what?
What was your proposed visitation schedule for Mr. Duncan?
I really want to request supervised visitations that are every other weekend, no overnights. But if not, at least standard parenting time that overnights from Friday from 6 p.m. to Sunday at 6 p.m.
If his parenting time were to be supervised, who would you propose the supervisor be?
Probably myself, because nobody else wants anything to do with Mr. Duncan, but I do wish that it could be at a mutual location because I'm not comfortable having him inside my home.
Do you feel safe being the parenting time supervisor with Mr. Duncan?
Yes and no, but there's nobody else to do it.
Would you prefer an independent third party do it if they could?
If they could, yes.
Okay. Are you willing to facilitate a close and continued relationship between Mr. Duncan and Logan?
Yes.
And how would you do that?
I always encourage their relationship. I never talk ill about Daryl to Logan, and I still want him to know his father.
Okay. Do you believe Mr. Duncan's willing to do the same?
No.
And why is that?
That is because he has told me a couple times that he wants to sign off of Logan. He never asked about Logan. He is surrendering his parenting time quite a bit.
Does he encourage a relationship between you and Logan?
He does not.
Okay. Is there any other instances of domestic violence that you're aware of other than the ones we've talked about?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like the court to know about custody and parenting time regarding Logan?
Nothing that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay. Ma'am, just briefly, you stated, let me get to that. You work at a place called Mortis, is that, or Modus, how? What was the name of it? What?
Modus.
Modus?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You never stated what your hourly rate was. What is that?
$17.50 an hour.
Okay. And you don't know now whether the plaintiff is working or not. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
When was the last time that you knew that he was working?
Probably about a couple of years ago, so my information will not be accurate. He does not share that information with me.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell me times where Logan would have, in fact, looked to you for guidance?
One time when he did look for me for guidance was in the fall of 2021. Daryl has leaned down one day and told him that, tell your mommy that you're going to be dead soon. He ran to me crying, scared, and I picked him up and we left. Every single time that somebody tries to bring up his father, he is shut down. He's unresponsive. He won't look at anybody. But he will come over to me. He'll hold my hand or give me a hug.
Okay. What, tell me when, again, other than this time, how do you provide, are there times when you've had to provide comfort for Logan, when he's scared, nightmare, things of that nature?
He has woke up quite a few times saying that there were monsters in his closet. Thanks to Halloween, we found a Go Away Spooky Monster song on YouTube. So whenever he gets scared of that nature, we always sing the Go Away Spooky Monsters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other times that you felt that you had to, maybe he didn't come to you, but you felt that he had to have comfort, and if so, what did you do?
Well, one time we were at the park and he accidentally grabbed one of the other kids' toys and they weren't necessarily happy with that. And the other kid was getting really upset. So I just diverted his attention, told him to go play with something else. And he was no longer upset and he was happy. He went and played on the swings.
Okay. So Logan is in school now, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
North Penn, you said?
Yes.
And does he get grades or just does he get, I guess you'd say, in situations where it would be pass fail or things of that nature?
Nothing pass fail. I have been keeping all of the things that he has been doing in class. They're working on writing numbers and his names, and they do arts and crafts. And they're also working with him on his reading.
Okay. But he's not graded on that yet.
Not quite yet, no.
Okay. Does he seem to be doing well in school or adequate, or how would you characterize it?
He is doing absolutely amazing. I always did try to work with him on his writing and reading, but he didn't progress quite as much with me. But as soon as he has been in school, he is writing so much more better. He can count to almost 100. He's starting to read. He's thriving. It's absolutely amazing to see.
Does he seem to like school?
Oh, he absolutely loves school. The part that he does not like is waking up early in the morning.
Okay. Well, that's probably true of all of us. Anything else, ma'am, that you can think of that I should be aware of in addressing the custody issue?
Not at this time.
Okay. Anything else as a result of my questions, Ms. Reed?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other witnesses, Ms. Reed?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Closing argument?
Just that there are continuing issues and I foresee continuing issues with Mr. Duncan, but we believe it is in the best interests of Logan, and an analysis of the best interest factors would show that a modification of custody and parenting time is in his best interests. There are concerns with the love, affection, and guidance that Mr. Duncan's able to provide to Logan. There's concerns regarding the stability of his home. There's concerns regarding the domestic violence present in his home, which he pled to, I do believe it's no contest on that recent DV charge. And it was reduced to the disorderly conduct or disorderly person. There's concerns regarding Mr. Duncan's inability to encourage a relationship between Logan and his mom. There's severe concerns regarding Mr. Duncan's ability to participate in those major life decisions. And Jeanette has testified that it's every single facet of Logan's life. It's school. Mr. Duncan took him out of school or Head Start, enrolled him in a different program, and then never had him attend that program when it was necessary and there was an IEP in place, and he completely ignored everything and just did what he wanted to do against Logan's best interest. It's medical issues. There's constant conflicts, and it's been testified that there's constant conflicts at primary care doctor's appointments, routine doctor's appointments, emergency room appointments. There has been almost a 1.5 year delay getting Logan his surgery on his ears to help with his ear infections because of Mr. Duncan's interference, canceling appointments, demanding doctors that are new to the case perform the appointments, threats regarding Dr. Prophet, who had been treating the child for years, just because he doesn't want to do it. This is why we're asking that Jeanette be awarded sole legal custody so these medical decisions can be made, that doctors' recommendations are implemented and follow through, that Logan is receiving his medications as he's prescribed, and that we have one person making these decisions because Mr. Duncan is clearly incapable of participating in those and will thwart those without reason at any chance he can get. We're requesting that Jeanette have primary physical custody to offer stability for Logan, and that Mr. Duncan's parenting time be supervised due to the supervision issues with all the children in the home, the cleanliness of the home, and the overall environment, and the instability that he provides of constantly denying parenting time, the promise that Logan is not going to be going to school during his parenting time, and the issues regarding parenting time exchanges. I would suggest maybe Family and Children Services or another independent third party provide that supervision, as Mr. Duncan cannot control himself. And I'm concerned for my client's safety, and I do not believe it would be a good environment to have Mr. Duncan and Miss Royal together with Logan present due to Mr. Duncan's conduct at parenting time exchanges and overall demeanor towards Jeanette with the inappropriate comments, the inappropriate threats in front of Logan. In the alternative of requesting that he have standard parenting time, I would request maybe 3 weeks during the summer instead of week on, week off during the summer, as we're having issues with exchanges and safety of Logan during that period of time. And we're requesting child support pursuant to the formula. We're also requesting makeup parenting time for the 4 days that Jeanette was denied in July when Mr. Duncan was arrested. And we are requesting that Mr. Duncan be held in contempt for the denial of parenting time and his continued refusal to use the Our Family Wizard app. It's been ordered twice now. He's continuing to block her on all communications, and that ties back into the legal custody part of this, is Jeanette cannot make joint decisions regarding these major life issues with Mr. Duncan if she's not able to communicate with Mr. Duncan at all. She's tried, she's been civil in her communication, and the response back is you're blocked for months at a time, or it's threats. So at this time, I'm requesting that the order be changed to sole legal custody, primary physical custody, supervised standard parenting time, and Mr. Duncan be held in contempt. We're also requesting child support pursuant to the formula.
Okay, just to clarify, Ms. Reed, is I know from her testimony, she said that the plaintiff hasn't had parenting time or hadn't had in September since the weekend, I guess, of the 7th when there was that issue. So she's had her makeup, hasn't she, 4 days because he hasn't exercised any parenting time?
It could be considered that, yes, Your Honor.
I was just.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Reed?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Well, in this particular case, as Ms. Reed is well aware of, is that custody is provided for under MCL 722.21 at SEC, and the court will go through that and the provisions of the best interest of the child test in a moment. First, the court has to determine whether there is in fact an established custodial environment. An established custodial environment exists over appreciable time where the child naturally looks to the custodian in that environment for guidance, discipline, necessities of life, and parental comfort. The statute provides that the court can look at the age of the child, the physical environment, the inclination of the custodian and the child as to the permanency of that particular relationship. That's important because if there is an established custodial environment, then the burden of proof is clear and convincing evidence. However, if there is not an established custodial environment, or in this case, if it exists with the defendant, then the burden is by a preponderance of the evidence. I'm not going to go through all of the testimony in this particular matter because, again, it's 10:15. We started just about 8:30, so I'd have to go through another hour and a half reiterating all of the testimony, which obviously would not serve any purpose in this particular matter. But I will go over what is germane to the court's decision in this particular case. In this particular matter, as I go through the best interest of the child test as provided for under MCL 722.23, court first has to look at the love, affection, and other emotional ties existing between the parties involved in the child. It does appear in this particular matter that there is a loving relationship between Logan and his mother. She has talked about how that's exhibited, that in fact, as she stated, well, getting back to part of the love, affection, et cetera, as well as parental guidance and that, she has talked about how when Logan was in fact frightened, scared, etc. She testified how they go through and sing the Go Away Spooky Monster song. She testified that if there's issues that come up and he's frightened, that he'll come over to her, hold her hand, he'll hug her. She also testified previously how they will, they kiss, hug, etc. And so clearly there's the issue. There's an environment of guidance in the plaintiff's home, as well as a love and affection and other emotional ties. She talked about that discipline, that when she has to discipline, all she has to do is, again, threaten to take things away from him, as in contrast to the plaintiff who uses physical violence in this particular matter. She testified as well that she provides necessities of life, and as I stated, she provides comfort as well. When I look at her testimony as a whole, it does appear, and I can't say anything as it relates to the plaintiff because he didn't show up for this hearing, so I can't infer, I can't speculate as to what may exist in his home, but it does appear, based upon the testimony, that there is an established custodial environment in the home of the defendant mother. Why is that important? Because, again, it establishes the burden of proof by a preponderance of evidence for the change in custody. Going through the factors, looking at the love, affection, and emotional ties based upon the evidence, the court is convinced that Logan does have a loving, affectionate relationship on which he is dependent upon the defendant in this matter. So obviously, there being no opposing evidence in this particular matter, the court will find that this factor does favor the defendant mother. Next factor is capacity and disposition of the parties involved to give the child love, affection, guidance, continuation of the education of raising the child, his particular religion or creed. There's been no testimony about a religion or creed in this particular matter, but it appears that the plaintiff has been the one responsible for Logan's education. She had testified about getting an IEP for him. She had him enrolled in North Penn, which was a school that she and the plaintiff discussed when they were together. In contrast, the defendant at one point, plaintiff at one point this year had, when Logan was enrolled in North Penn, he tried to unenroll him and enroll him in Berry County, which obviously was thwarted because of the fact that he couldn't go on an alternating weekly basis to Berry County, and that the plaintiff had testified she had worked with Logan, defendant had testified that she worked with Logan with the schoolwork and numbers, writing, things of that nature, that in school he has improved substantially since that time, since he's been enrolled in school. So it does appear that she has provided that particular continuation in the education, as she has showed this capacity and disposition to provide love, affection, and guidance. As a result, the court will find that this factor does favor the defendant mother. Next factor is the capacity and disposition of the parties involved to provide food, clothing, medical care, and other remedial care recognized or permitted under the laws of the state in place of medical care and other material needs. In this particular matter, she has testified that she has not received any financial assistance from the plaintiff, although she did acknowledge that there are times when he has paid his support obligation, which is approximately $450 per month, but she has not received that regularly, et cetera. So the court will find that he has had the capacity, but the court questions the disposition to provide for that material needs and to provide her with the child support necessary to, again, support the child while the child is in her care. She did show that she is working at Mortis. She's making $17.50 per hour. She has some overtime. And again, her schedule is conducive to the child because she's not, it doesn't work on Saturdays and Sundays. And that she does have other care for Logan when she is working. Court will note too of her testimony that she has been primarily responsible for the medical care, that most recently Logan had to have his adenoids out, have tooth placed in his ear, that in fact she is the one that's been responsible for that and taking care of all of those medical needs. She has testified that the plaintiff has attempted to get medical care at different times. One time when he had apparently a gash in his head, he went to emergency room, that in fact, other times he's had routine medical care by the plaintiff has taken him to, but he has in fact blocked or made it almost impossible for the defendant to attend those particular appointments. Court would note as well that she had testified at one time that the plaintiff had provided to Logan a steroid, which was taken by a stepchild, but he did so without any prescription, and he did that without having seen a doctor as well, which obviously, because of medical conditions, and she testified as to what those medical conditions for Logan are, could be a substantial health risk, not knowing how they would interact with anything else he was taking. Previously, she testified a number of times about having him on antibiotics, and that delayed some of the surgery. She'd also testified that, again, as to other medical, I guess you'd say medication that he had been on. And again, the court does find that that is a risk, giving an unprescribed medicine to a child when, again, there's not any, doctor's prescription or anything of that nature. The court will find that this factor does favor the defendant mother. Next factor is the length of time the child has lived in a stable, satisfactory environment, the desirability of maintaining continuity. Based upon the testimony, the court could glean from the defendant that the plaintiff remains in the home that she had apparently resided with the plaintiff in, because she testified she was very familiar with the home. She'd been there, and I think she said that she had been in that home when they were together. And then she gave the concerns for the condition of the home. And she testified that she'd lived about a year in the home that she is in. When I look at that testimony, the court cannot and will not find that this factor favors either parent in this particular matter. Next factor is the permanency of the family unit, the existing or proposed custodial homes or homes. The court would note that, again, she has testified she does not reside with anyone. She does not have a significant other. Based upon, basically, the court could infer from her testimony, she has not identified anybody living with her and the child. And however, the court would note that she had testified about the defendant is remarried to Samantha, and she has not testified as to any, I guess you say, anything in that home where it would not show that that is a permanent relationship. So the court cannot weigh this factor in favor of either of the parties in this case. Next factor is the moral fitness of the parties involved. She has testified that she has, in fact, does not have any convictions for any offenses, that the plaintiff, however, does, a disorderly one that happened just recently that was apparently pled down from a domestic violence or an assault upon his brother's girlfriend that was in the home, that she testified that he has drinking problem, that she believes he's an alcoholic, that he does drink on a daily basis. He also smokes marijuana and has, as she said, since he was 13 in this matter. And so that the court has concerns as it relates to that particular factor existing in the plaintiff's home. The court will weigh this factor based upon the testimony in favor of the defendant mother. Next factor is the mental and physical health of the parties involved. She's testified that her health is good. Mental and physical health is good. She's not testified as to really anything relating to the plaintiff's physical or mental health that the court could extrapolate, if you would, to this factor. So the court will not weigh this factor in favor of either of the parties. Next factor is the homeschool and community record of the child. In this matter, the school record is minimal because he's only been going for this year. Community record as well, based upon the age of the child. But it does appear that based upon what her testimony is in this matter, that she does have a good home record for the child. They get along well. The child appears to, again, be bonded to her, that it's just a good home environment that she provides, again, that guidance, leadership to him in her particular home, that she has been responsible for, again, providing for the school attendance. And in contrast, the plaintiff has stated that, again, that he would not take the child to school when it was his weeks to have the child because he's not able to provide transportation. And as a result, the court will find that this factor does favor the defendant mother. Next factor is the reasonable preference of the child. The court did have an opportunity to interview the child, and I am taking into account his preference in this case. Next factor is the willingness and ability of each of the parents to facilitate and encourage a close and continued parent-child relationship between the child and the other parent. In this matter, it does appear that the plaintiff has attempted to do so. Court will note that back when the consent, the stipulator order went into effect, when they had joint legal custody in alternating weeks. Again, she obviously stipulated that back on February 8, 2022. And that was obviously involving the plaintiff in a major way in this particular matter. She had previously had sole custody prior to that time. As I was listening to the testimony, the court obviously was a little bit mystified as to why she would have granted joint physical custody based upon her testimony as to the relationship, her relationship with the plaintiff, as well as various matters concerning the child as well, but nonetheless, she did. The court would also note that based upon the exhibits that were admitted in this matter, particular exhibits E, F, J, and M in this particular matter, it does appear that, again, the plaintiff has only communicated with her using, again, offensive and vulgar language, repeatedly denigrates and threatens her in those documents, in those exhibits, and clearly it's not conducive to a willingness or ability to facilitate and encourage a close parent-child relationship in this particular matter. As a result, the court will find that this factor does favor the defendant mother. Next factor is domestic violence, regardless whether violence was directed or witnessed by the child. She did testify about the incident concerning the assault on the brother's girlfriend, that Logan was present in the home when that occurred. As a result, the court will find that this factor, that there was domestic violence in the plaintiff's home, and the court will find that this factor favors the defendant mother. Next factor is any other factor considered by the court relevant to the parent-child relationship. And in considering that, I am looking at, again, the way in which first that the parties have been able to communicate, which has been non-existent. The defendant had testified repeatedly about, again, threatening messages, which the court has already identified in the exhibits, that in fact, not only that the plaintiff has threatened the doctor's offices if the defendant were to appear for those doctor visits that he had scheduled. That the surgery that had to occur was delayed for about a year. Some of it, understandably, because Logan, again, had the heart murmur, or at least they thought he did. And then he had been ill, so he was on antibiotics, so they delayed that. But also it was delayed because of the threats by the plaintiff in this matter that he would sue the doctor's offices, et cetera, in this particular case. The court would also note in this matter that the court is at other factors. The court is considering the threats against the defendant by the plaintiff in this matter. And at the one time at the doctor's office, made some threat to the child, "Do you want to die?" Threatened that she would slash her tires, and other assorted threats that she had testified to. Our court would also note that he has, in fact, blocked her repeatedly. Like she said, she should have been blocked more from communicating with the plaintiff than she has not been in this particular case, which clearly goes to his ability to facilitate a relationship. It's hard to facilitate a relationship and communicate if you are in fact being perpetually blocked from communicating with the other parent. The court does note that considering all of those particular factors, the court does believe that this factor does favor the defendant mother in this particular matter. And I would state that in this regard, this factor does favor defendant mother substantially in this case. To a point, court would note that, again, that he is apparently, as she testified, that he enlisted his stepchildren to use derogatory terms to the defendant, and at times when there's exchanges. Court would also note that the reluctance of Logan, as she had testified, to go back to the plaintiff, and that he'll cry, shut down, et cetera, taking all of that into consideration in this case. When I do this, as I stated, because the court had found that the established custodial environment is with her, she only required to prove by preponderance of evidence that it's in the best interest of Logan to, again, change and order sole custody in this matter. But the court would note, after looking at all the factors, the court in this matter finds that she has established by clear and convincing evidence that it is in Logan's best interest to be in her custody. And clear and convincing evidence is evidence which would produce in the mind of the trier of fact a firm belief or conviction as to the allegations sought to be established. Evidence so clear, direct and weighty and convincing as to enable the fact finder to come to a clear conviction without hesitancy of the precise facts and issue. In this matter, the court has come to that, again, conviction based upon all of the testimony and the exhibits in this particular matter. When I look in this matter, the court, again, is required to look at the possibility of joint custody pursuant to MCL 772 722.26A in this particular matter. Notwithstanding that, and the court always looks at the possibility of granting joint custody, the court does not believe that it is appropriate in this particular matter. I do that based upon, again, the testimony, I guess you say, incivility of the plaintiff, the failure to communicate with the defendant, notwithstanding that the court had previously ordered that the parties would communicate through our family wizard. Apparently, he's signed up for that, as she stated, but he has not linked it to her, so there's no way that the parties can communicate. So notwithstanding the fact that he is, I guess you attempted to satisfy the letter of the order, he's not satisfied the substance of it in this particular matter. So, and in view of the problems there's existing around the medical issues, the court doesn't believe that joint legal custody is appropriate in this matter. That being also with the issues concerning education, his unwillingness to communicate with her and attempt to facilitate schooling, etc. So the court will, in fact, not order either joint legal or joint physical custody in this particular case. The court notes that the defendant had testified about, again, the denial of parenting time in 2023, that it had been approximately 3 to 4 days. The first instance that the court notes from the testimony was around July 4th. It's actually supposed to be July 30th through after the 4th, which was going to be her time. And he failed to return the child. She only got the child back after apparently he'd been arrested on that criminal offense involving the brother's girlfriend. And then she was able to retrieve the child at that particular time. Then there was also the time, I think in earlier September, I think the testimony was that he wasn't going to return him so they could go to school or something of that nature. So the court will make a determination that he is in contempt of court for violating the parenting time order previously put in place back on February 8, 2022. And however, as the court had in question, Ms. Reed, the court notes that she has in fact had the child since, for the entire month of September. So obviously she has made up that 4 days worth of parenting time. So the court's not going to award any additional parenting time other than to hold him in contempt. So we have that as a record. One thing I didn't mention, which I turned to mention under factor I, as any other factors relevant, and I just came across the note when I saw that, was that, again, the exhibits in this matter concerning his willingness to sign off on Logan, and that would be an exhibit M, where he'd stated that the attorney was supposed to prepare that paperwork. He said, as he said, to sign off on Logan, and he said, hurry up and get it done. And again, that court is taking that into consideration because that belies a bunch of the other factors as it relates to, again, the bond, the relationship, etc., when a parent is willing to sign off on a particular child. But it clearly goes into factor I in this particular matter. So the court will again find that it is in Logan's best interest that mother be granted sole legal and sole physical custody. It's been requested that the court would order supervised parenting time for the plaintiff. The court is not prepared to do that at this time. It does appear that, as she stated, the plaintiff has taken all this time this year until recently, that he did for most of the time in 2022. And the court has only minimal testimony as to why standard parenting time would not be appropriate. So the court will grant to the plaintiff standard parenting time, which would involve alternating weekends, a midweek, as well as alternating holidays in this particular case. Ms. Reed, I'm going to have, just to give you time to prepare the order and get it submitted in this matter, I'm going to have that alternating weekend parenting time commence on October 13, 2023 at 8:00 a.m. in each alternating week thereafter. I'm doing that so that we do not have any problems as it relates to identifying the alternating weeks. It'll alternate from that weekend. And apparently that'll take care of that particular issue. I want to also, awarding that standard parenting time, what I'm going to do, excuse me?
You said alternating weeks. Is it alternating
Other
weekend?
weekends,
Okay, and is that at 6 o'clock on Friday?
6 o'clock Friday through 6:00 p.m. on Sunday. If
Okay,
I said that, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
just to be clear, that's going to be starting plaintiff's parenting time.
That is starting plaintiff's parenting time on October 13, 2023, and each alternating weekend thereafter.
Okay,
And I don't, it sounds like the plaintiff had Labor Day on this year, so the court would alternate the holidays, giving the defendant Thanksgiving 2023 and each alternating holiday thereafter. I want to do that so that there's no confusion, no issues, as the defendant had testified about times where the plaintiff will try to tell the police that the parenting time is something other than it is in the orders. So this way it'll be clear as to what are the alternating weekends, what are the alternating holidays. Based upon the testimony of the defendant as well, the court does believe it is appropriate in this matter that the parties, when they meet to exchange the child, that the plaintiff would not be present for those exchanges based upon, again, his demeanor, his actions, his threats in this particular matter. So the order will provide that the plaintiff would provide for the transportation by having another responsible adult with whom the child is familiar with would be present to accomplish that parent-child exchange. And the court would, I note, obviously because the other stepchildren have been involved, I'm not going to bar that at this point, but I will if the conduct that had been testified to previously would continue if it happened to be the stepmother that is picking up the child in this particular case. I would order that the parties would continue to meet for the exchanges as they've done. I don't know, there was no testimony about where they've met and done the exchanges, but they would continue to meet to do those exchanges at a halfway point to accomplish that. The court is not going to order, again, supervised parenting time at the current time, as there's not been sufficient testimony to warrant that. What the court's going to do as it relates to child support is the defendant testified that she makes $17.50 per hour, that she works full time. She does have some overtime, but that's questionable at this point because of the UAW strike, and they're not getting that overtime now. So I'm not going to, again, I'm not going to ascribe any overtime at this point. In this particular case, there's not been any testimony from concerning the plaintiff's work, but the court does and is aware that he, and in fact, anybody can acquire employment now on a full-time basis, making $15 per hour So the court would ascribe and impute that income to him. There's been no testimony about his inability to work or any other disabilities that would keep him from working. And so the court will ascribe that amount to him for purposes of calculating child support. The court would grant to the and take into consideration for the defendant that she is paying $75 per month for insurance for she and Logan, that the court would ascribe half of that amount to her as a deduction for purposes of calculating support. I believe that there were no other deductions that she stated. Well, there was. I'm sorry. She stated that she would provide the grandmother with pay $30 a week to provide for gas to pick up Logan from school. The court is going to have that as another deduction for her in lieu of, if you would, in lieu of childcare, because she's not paying anything to the grandmother for that, but paying her for that expense to pick him up. So in lieu of that, it's the $30 and she can deduct that. Court would note the only deduction the court could garner from the testimony as it relates to the plaintiff had to do with other child, that he had twins. So there is two other children that he should be getting the credit for calculating support. With that, court does believe that the court has addressed everything that the court needs to at this point. Is there anything, Ms. Reed, that the court has failed to address or needs to address before we conclude?
No, Your Honor, but I'm going to restate the order just so I have it clear.
Okay,
Defendant has sole legal custody, sole physical custody. Plaintiff will be held in contempt for the denial of parenting time. Is he also going to be held in contempt for the Our Family Wizard?
I'm not going to, as I said, I should have made that clear. I mean, that I feel that he complied by, again, getting the app, by enrolling in it, but not completely to satisfy the intent of that by, in fact, linking it to the defendant where she is able to communicate. Has he acquired the Our Family Wizard? Yes, but he hasn't done it completely. So I'm not going to hold him in contempt of that at this point, but the court will order, and you can put that in the order, that he will, in fact, make sure that it is linked to the defendant's account so that they can communicate through that purpose. And the court would order that, again, the parties only communicate through Our Family Wizard in this matter, unless there's a, some sort of other emergency involving the child.
Okay.
So you can include that as well. So I'm not going to hold him in contempt for that.
Okay, so contempt for the parenting time denial. He will connect to Our Family Wizard or communicate in other means only in emergencies. The plaintiff will have standard parenting time with alternating holidays. His parenting time will start on October 13th. The holiday rotation will start with defendant and Thanksgiving of this year. The plaintiff will provide transportation for his parenting time. He will not be present at exchanges, and the parties will exchange at a halfway point. And then child support according to the formula, with plaintiff being imputed $15 an hour, defendant having $17.50 for 40 hours, credit for half of her insurance, and $30 a week for her child care or gas money. Is that correct, Your Honor?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. And we will get that drafted.
Anything else, Ms. Reed?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. We'll conclude at 10:50 a.m. You're excused and have a good day.